Tonight, all the day's major developing stories here on Prime.
This is a case that should have never been brought. It's a case that should be dismissed immediately.
A historic first. A former president of the United States takes the witness stand in his own fraud trial. What that could mean for his business and his re-election chances as he continues to dominate in the polls. Plus,
the most dangerous thing is not seeing that danger. The ones that are still alive are dug down in the tunnels.
We're in Gaza with unprecedented access to the state of war for the millions trapped as calls for a ceasefire and a pressure campaign grows. And
I think we're in potentially the last days of where we have any confidence in the veracity of what we see digitally.
Can you tell fact from fiction? In tonight's Prime Focus, we take a deep dive into how AI is being used on the campaign trail from tomorrow's elections nationwide to the 2024 race. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're following those stories and much more, including a look at dire conditions for the children of Gaza when I speak with one of the only relief organizations left on the ground. Plus, as the war intensifies, so do the threats to Jewish people worldwide. Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism joins us to discuss what more can be done to combat the growing threats. We'll bring you an update on a major teacher strike impacting tens of thousands of children in Portland. And it's one of the largest sporting events in the world. And with picture-perfect conditions, records were shattered this marathon Sunday. We take a look at the New York City Marathon by the numbers. Our correspondents are fanned out across the country covering those stories and much more for us tonight. But we do begin with a historic moment in a New York State court. No current nor former president has ever testified in their own defense. Today, Donald Trump became the first. Trump took the stand today in his civil fraud trial in New York City. He was seated between his lawyers at the defense table and lashed out at the judge and the attorney general even after taking the stand. Under questioning, he acknowledged he overvalued at least 2 properties in his financial statements, but also said the state underestimated his total net worth. Trump has denied all wrongdoing. His attorneys have argued Trump's alleged inflated valuations were a product of his business skill. After the proceeding today, in response to one of Trump's outbursts, New York Attorney General Letitia James said she would not be bullied and the case will go on. Aaron Katersky leads us off tonight from here in New York City.
Donald Trump arriving at court today to testify in his civil fraud trial, spoiling for a fight.
This is really election interference. That's all it is. This trial is ridiculous.
New York's Attorney General unfazed.
I am certain that he will engage in name-calling and taunts and race baiting and call this a witch hunt. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters are the facts and the numbers. And numbers, my friends, don't lie.
It was tense from the start, sitting right next to Judge Arthur Engoron, Trump complaining he called me a fraud and he didn't know anything about me. The judge admonishing the former president, please just answer the question, no speeches. Trump did not comply. Calm but combative while hunched in the witness chair, Trump at one point grumbling, I'm sure the judge will rule against me because he always rules against me. Judge Engoron exasperated, calling Trump's answers non-responsive and repetitive, at one point yelling to Trump's attorney, can you control your client? This is not a political rally. This is a courtroom. I beseech you to control him. If you can't, I will, and threatening to boot Trump from court. Trump's response, this is a very unfair trial. I hope the public is watching. In a break, but still under oath, he gestured his lips were sealed. The judge has already determined Trump fraudulently overvalued his properties and inflated his net worth to get better deals on bank loans and insurance. On the witness stand, Trump conceded he knew what was in his financial statements, acknowledging, I would look at them, I would see them, and I would maybe on occasion have some suggestions. But he largely deflected blame to deputies and accountants, saying, I have people, I pay them a lot of money, they're accountants, I assume they keep good records. Still, he claims when you factor in the Trump brand, he's worth a lot more than what it says on paper, insisting the numbers of my net worth are far greater than the numbers reflected on the financial statements. Therefore, you have no case.
Combative but calm, Aaron. That's the way you described him. Of course, there's no jury in this trial. The judge will rule in this case, and he's already decided that Donald Trump is liable for fraud. So why was the former president so combative with the judge today in court?
It really was extraordinary, Lindsay, to see a defendant on the witness stand
take on a judge so blatantly, Trump pointedly calling Judge Arthur Gorin a disgrace and smirking or rolling his eyes whenever he would overrule an objection from the defense. But Trump, it seems, had an intended audience beyond the courtroom as he tries to use this legal case to his political advantage. Lindsay?
Aaron Katersky from outside the courthouse today. Thanks so much, Aaron. ABC's Olivia Rubin was in the courtroom for today's testimony, and she joins us now. And Olivia, you initially reported the tensions were high in the courtroom early on. What were your impressions later in the day?
Very early on. It was within 15 minutes, I would say, Lindsay, that the court sort of descended into chaos with the judge yelling at Trump's lawyers, Trump speaking out of turn, the lawyers at times yelling back. And it was quite heated as the judge was clearly not happy with the answers that Donald Trump was giving. He found them meandering, too long, not on point. But I will say, after the sort of morning session of chaos and yelling, the temperature did come down quite a bit for the afternoon session, where they got into sort of the nitty-gritty of the financial statements that are at the heart of the case, going through with Donald Trump on the stand. By the end of the day, I would even point out the judge looking at one of Trump's lawyers and saying, "I'm sorry I yelled at you earlier."
Some of that tension that you speak of came from Trump in public comments, attacking the judge, attacking the judge's staff. What was that like once they were then face-to-face?
Well, it's something clearly that the judge does not like. So imagine these two men for the first time sitting next to each other for an entire day, no more than 3 feet apart. And you could absolutely feel that tension. There were times, I would note, that Donald Trump wouldn't even look at the judge as the judge is making rulings. And then throughout the day, something that you experience all the time in the courtroom are objections from lawyers and then a ruling from the judge. And throughout the entire day, Lindsay, something that stuck out to me is the judge repeatedly overruling Trump's attorney's objections, and you could see the reaction in the former president every single time the judge would say overruled. He would almost smirk and laugh and mock to himself, because it, to him, apparently was feeding into this narrative that the Trump team believes that the judge is against them. And that sort of continued throughout the entire day. A very interesting dynamic of the two men up there just 3 feet apart.
Your takeaway for today as far as Trump's legal team's strategy?
Well, if you listen to Donald Trump's lawyer outside of court, he said that Trump was an absolutely brilliant witness and that in his 30 years of trying cases, he has never had a witness do better than Donald Trump. I mean, I don't think that would be quite the case, but I think certainly for some people, it did not go as bad as it could have been. He kept his cool for the most part and was able to maneuver through the question. So looking forward, we know that it's going to get into Donald Trump's side of the case on Monday. They will start bringing their case in earnest. And we can expect that some of the Trump family members will be back again because it didn't go so bad. Let's see what Donald Trump can do with his case for the next few weeks.
Look forward to your color from inside the courtroom. Olivia Rubin, thank you so much. To the Israel-Hamas war now, where tonight we have a rare look inside the war zone as the death toll in Gaza passes 10,000, according to the Hamas-led health ministry, and more than 1,400 dead in Israel, according to Israeli Prime Minister's office. Our chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell embedded with Israeli troops inside Gaza for the first time since the conflict broke out.
An extraordinary humanitarian airdrop into the heart of the battle zone in Gaza. Jordan parachuting tons of medical aid onto a field hospital in Gaza City because of delays at the land border, according to King Abdullah. It comes as Israel intensifies its strikes on Gaza, massive bombardment overnight. As Israeli defense forces say they've now cut Gaza in half and are surrounding Gaza City. The IDF releasing these videos saying they've taken control of a Hamas compound and struck several Hamas targets. And for the first time since October 7th, we were taken into Gaza to see the war firsthand, embedding with a heavily armored Israeli military convoy. Our footage was checked by the IDF for operational security.
It's not clear what just happened. We heard the sound of an explosion. I could see flames on the side. It could have been an IED, a roadside bomb.
We were driven about 3 miles across the border to the northern side of Gaza City. I asked the deputy commander how dangerous it was.
Danger is everywhere.
Right.
The most dangerous thing is not seeing that danger. The ones that are still alive are dug down in the tunnels.
Right.
So there's no place that I can say, okay, it's clear from enemy.
It's an apocalyptic landscape, building after building beaten and broken by the bombardment. The crackle and crump of guns and tanks rips through the air.
Look, you can see some of the destruction behind me. You can see, obviously, Israeli armored vehicles, tanks are here, but also you can see up there in the buildings the sound of heavy bombardment. You can hear the sound, outgoing fire.
As night started to fall, Hamas launched mortars towards our position. I asked the lieutenant colonel when he thought the war would end.
My daughter Gali is 8. I hope I'll see her before she's 9 in January.
But this is what we couldn't see from our position: the carnage and death being inflicted elsewhere in Gaza. Israeli airstrikes hitting 2 refugee camps in the central Gaza Strip Sunday, located in the evacuation zone where Israel's military is urging Palestinians to seek refuge, killing at least 55 and injuring 100, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. This man at the Al-Maghazi camp saying it was like an earthquake. There's nowhere safe in Gaza. In just 4 weeks, almost 10,000 men, women and children have been killed as Israel responds to the attack by Hamas and others, where 1,400 were killed and around 240 taken hostage. Hamas now claiming at least 60 of those hostages have died as a result of Israeli bombing. Our George Stephanopoulos pressing the US Deputy National Security Advisor about it on This Week.
There are some reports from Hamas that several dozen have been killed in the airstrikes.
George, we can't verify any of those reports. They're coming directly from Hamas, and we believe they should be taken with a grain of salt.
Our thanks to Ian Panel for that. And tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is once again rejecting the idea of a ceasefire in Gaza unless hostages are released. Speaking in an exclusive interview with ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir, here's a bit of what Netanyahu had to say.
There will be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave. But I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire. It's not that I don't think. I think it will hamper the war effort. It'll hamper our effort to get our hostages out, because the only thing that works on these criminals in Hamas is the military pressure that we're exerting.
You can see more of David's interview on abcnews.com. Joining us now for more insight on the situation on the ground in Gaza is Doctors Without Borders Communications Manager Faris Al-Jawad. Faris, thank you so much for joining us. Now, you're currently in the West Bank. Curious to know where in Gaza your team members are located and what you're hearing from them.
So we have a range of sites where our team are working across the West Bank, across Gaza, including in the north, including Al-Shifa Hospital, Al-Quds, and some of the other hospitals in the region. They're describing horrific scenes, and I don't think that should be any surprise to your viewers, as I'm sure everybody's aware of how dire the situation is in Gaza at the moment. It's been difficult to sometimes contact our teams, sometimes doing amputations without anesthesia. This is the reality for our staff on the ground, and what's worse is they don't know themselves whether they're going to wake up tomorrow. So the situation is just a nightmare, beyond some kind of horror movie that could be described.
Doing amputations without anesthesia is hard to comprehend, really. Also like to ask you about this new acronym that has been created specifically due to this conflict, WCNSF, which stands for Wounded Child No Surviving Family. How prevalent of an issue is that?
I mean, the vast majority of the patients that we see, that our teams see in the hospitals around Gaza, are indeed children. The other day, after Jabalia camp was hit, we received many children in Al-Shifa Hospital, and one of our colleagues described to me the fact that most of these children arrived without any parents, without any family. They were screaming for their parents, screaming for their family. There was nobody there, so our team member had to stay with the children, obviously give them emergency medical care, but also stay with them thereafter because they're alone.
And you said that in those cases they were able to stay with those children, but if we're talking about large volumes, what happens to those kids? Do they end up then just staying at the hospital indefinitely?
Well, it's difficult to track, but indeed the hospitals themselves are loaded with not only severely wounded patients in beds, on the ground, in the corridors, but of course thousands and thousands of people seeking shelter. So it's just carnage. There's no other way to describe it. There's nowhere for people to go. The idea to be able to evacuate these hospitals is just ludicrous. There's nowhere to go, and indeed leaving the hospitals with patients obviously who are sick and ill and in dire shape would mean a death sentence. So it's just an untenable situation. The situation needs to stop. The bombing needs to stop. We need a ceasefire now. Quite frankly, it's just unfathomable how this is still going on. World leaders, I don't know how they can sleep at night, quite frankly. I do not understand it. We've been saying the same thing over and over again. It seems that our words are just falling on deaf ears. Sometimes it doesn't even seem worth doing these interviews to some degree because it seems like nobody's listening.
If there's someone who's in America, in Canada, in Africa right now who wants to help, is there anything that they can do from home?
I believe it's everybody's wish and responsibility to try and push for a ceasefire, and whether that be the people of the United States or the people anywhere across the world, we need a ceasefire. We need to push leaders to make this happen. I said it before, I just can't believe anybody can sleep right now. I haven't slept since I've reached Palestine. I've been here for a month now, and knowing what's happening just disallows me to sleep. So I think everybody should be calling for a ceasefire. People should be pushing their leaders, and we should be pushing all stakeholders to make this stop.
And of course, we've been talking about the Gaza Strip, as I mentioned earlier. You're located in the West Bank. How are conditions there?
Dire. I'm in Jenin right now, and most of my members of my team are asleep. And the reason why they're asleep is because almost every single night they're woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to Jenin Hospital to deal with trauma case young men with gunshot wounds. They've been in and out of Jenin Hospital every day. There's been over 150 people killed in the West Bank since the 7th of October. This is not Gaza. This is the West Bank. And as I said, we're dealing with horrific trauma cases, bullet wounds. I was driving around Jenin earlier with the team. The roads have been ripped up. Important symbolic areas of the city have been torn apart by bulldozers.
Doctors Without Borders Communications Manager Faris Al-Jawad, we so appreciate you talking with us, taking the time. Please stay safe.
Cheers.
Authorities in California say they're investigating the hit and run of an Arab Muslim Stanford University student on Friday as a hate crime. For weeks, federal authorities have warned about an increase in threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities. Our Faith Abube joins us now from Stanford University's campus. And Faith, you spoke with that injured student today. What did he tell you?
Well, Lindsay, he says he's still in a lot of pain, both physically and mentally. He suffered injuries to his side and lost sensation in one foot, but he is expected to be okay, even though he's still in the hospital recovering this evening. In the meantime, though, this is happening as some students here on campus are starting to cast doubt on whether he's in fact the victim of a possible hate crime. And just this afternoon, ABC News has been able to confirm that one of the examples that they're using to try to discredit him is in fact false, and that he did work, the victim here did work with the White Helmets to try to save lives in Syria. He does continue to work with them and has been working with them since April of this year. The victim himself tells me the allegations against him are bizarre, and he's continuing to call for love and understanding. Lindsay.
Does that student think that he knows who the suspect is?
Well, you know, he said that this is someone who previously showed animosity towards his community, the Muslim community. And I asked him to explain why. He says he's seen this person twice on the day of the incident as his car was careening towards him and eventually hit him allegedly in this situation. But also he says a week before that incident, he saw him right here on the Stanford University campus, actually in this area, when multiple students were sitting in here as part of the pro-Palestine protest. He says that he came here to say hello to his friends. He was was not part of that protest, but he saw the suspect when he came here. The suspect, he says, was taking video of the protesters and also took video of him, even though they never exchanged words. A week later, this incident happens. Of course, investigators have a lot to parse through here as this investigation continues. They tell us this is an investigation that they're looking into as a possible hate crime still at this point. In the meantime, the university released a statement saying that hate-based violence is not something that they accept on this campus and that they condemn it. Lindsay.
Very active protests right behind you on the Stanford University campus. Faith Wube, our thanks to you. Authorities in Boston, they have completed one of the latest drug seizures in New England history. Federal prosecutors say they seized more than 200 pounds of suspected drugs, including pills molded to look like heart-shaped Valentine's Day candies. Some of the pills are believed to contain fentanyl. Authorities say the drugs were found at a home in Lynn, Massachusetts, where children were living on the first and second floors. At least 3 suspects have been charged. Next tonight to the verdict reverberating throughout Colorado after a decision was handed down in the trial of the death of Elijah McClain, whose life was taken 4 years ago. Our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has those details.
Tonight, a Colorado police officer has been acquitted in the killing of Elijah McClain, a young man whose death shocked the nation.
The foreperson reads, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Nathan Woodyard, not guilty of manslaughter, reckless, and the lesser included offense of criminally negligent homicide."
Nathan Woodyard placed McClain in a neck hold, which has since been banned. But his defense team arguing McClain was alive when Woodyard released him and that it was a fatal dose of ketamine that contributed to McClain's death. Woodyard's acquittal comes just weeks after another officer was acquitted in McClain's death while yet another was convicted. It was August 2019 and McClain, a massage therapist, was walking home after buying iced tea from a convenience store.
Stop right there.
Police confronting McClain
right there.
after receiving a report of a suspicious person wearing a ski mask. But what they didn't know, according to Elijah's family, is that he wore a ski mask because he was anemic and often cold. Police grabbed McClain within 7 seconds. The officers apply a chokehold.
I'm so sorry. For your gun, dude. I have no gun. That's where I tried fraud. I don't do that stuff.
Paramedics later inject McClain with that powerful drug. He was declared brain dead days later and died in the hospital.
Our thanks to Pierre Thomas. A major strike involving 45,000 teachers is impacting tens of thousands of students tonight after the teachers of Portland, Oregon were back on the picket lines for a 4th day, demanding a 20% pay raise, smaller class sizes, and more time to plan curriculum. And they may soon have some company, with Las Vegas bracing for possibly the largest hospitality strike in U.S. history. Hotel chains are preparing for a possible walkout by 35,000 members of the Culinary Workers Union as the year of labor battles continues. Still much more to get to tonight here on Prime. Coming up, a man falls onto the subway tracks in New York City. Body camera video shows officers racing to pull him to safety. But next, in our Prime focus, the line between reality and artificial intelligence is only becoming harder to identify, and it could have a major role in the 2024 presidential elections. Why tech experts are sounding the alarm.
Whenever news breaks,
the crush of families here in Poland.
Here in Kentucky, no match for the tornado.
From Monterey Park, California, on the ground in Ukraine.
Reporting from Uvalde, Texas.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
From Kathmandu, Nepal.
In Truckee, California, covering record snowfall.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
Here at this airport in Tampa, it's already shut down.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Reporting from Jerusalem.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
Everybody in that home is okay.
To catch you up with what happened overnight.
We are here at fashion's biggest night out.
What's happening today? YouTube has unveiled a new set of policies.
What people are talking about. The new ad campaign.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
A real-life Barbie dream house.
A name change for the Wienermobile.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Welcome back, everyone. As artificial intelligence becomes more advanced by the day, it's starting to become more difficult to distinguish what's real and what's been computer generated. And with the 2024 presidential campaign well underway, some candidates and political organizations are turning to artificial intelligence to help boost their campaigns. So in tonight's Prime Focus, ABC's Deputy Political Director Avery Harper takes a look at the dangers of AI in politics and political advertising with less than 1 year to go until Election Day 2024.
The world is watching.
The race to 2024's presidential election is upon us. And unlike in election cycles past, artificial intelligence is making waves on the campaign trail.
What happened to Donald Trump?
This is an ad from Political Action Committee Never Back Down, which supports Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Now she wants to remain neutral. I don't invite her to events.
And while that sounds like Donald Trump, that voice does not belong to the former president. It was generated using AI to read a social media post from his social network with no disclosure that it was fabricated. And that's not the first time we've seen fabricated images and audio used this primary season. The Republican National Committee put out an ad comprised entirely of dystopian images, every frame created using artificial intelligence. And earlier this year, DeSantis' team mixed AI-generated photos of Trump and Dr. Anthony Fauci with real photos of Trump and Fauci in a Twitter post. Political veterans are warning of the dangers, like Kevin Lau, an alum of both President Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren's presidential campaigns.
When you see campaigns doing things like mixing real images with fake, what comes to mind for you?
I think that's incredibly troubling. I think one of the proposals that people have discussed is mandatory labeling of when images are artificially created. And I think that would be an incredibly useful tool so that voters seeing these ads have a sense of what's real and what's not.
Tech executives like OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman sounding the alarm to lawmakers on Capitol Hill about risks posed by AI tools like the potential spread of disinformation.
My worst fears are that we, the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world. I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
His company makes the popular AI conversation software ChatGPT. President Biden visited this summer with experts at Stanford University's Institute for Human-Centered AI to be briefed on the subject.
We'll see more technological change in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 50 years, and maybe even beyond that. And AI is already driving that change.
In October, President Biden signed an executive order aiming to tackle safety and security concerns about AI. Additionally, a bipartisan group of senators is working on drafting AI regulation. And the Federal Election Commission is considering amending regulation already on the books to prohibit, quote, deliberately deceptive AI in campaign ads. But there are currently no rules when it comes to campaigns using artificial intelligence in political materials like ads.
Would you call the ways in which we've seen it used this cycle already, the ads, the images that have been posted without disclosure, would you call that dangerous?
I would say it's concerning because we don't seem to have a general policy about how we'll do this, and we're leaving it exclusively to the campaigns. All campaigns can use this. So in that sense, who is setting the rules of the road is the campaigns themselves as they go.
Russell Wald is the policy director at Stanford University's Institute for Human-Centered AI. He explains what's called the liar's dividend.
The liar's dividend ultimately says if something actually did happen, someone can easily lie and say, nope, that didn't happen, that's a fake. And I think we're in potentially the last days of where we have any confidence in the veracity of what we see digitally.
Several GOP candidates acknowledging the potential impact of artificial intelligence.
There are real risks to AI, but we have to avoid the sloppy
policy solution of just instituting bans willy-nilly.
I hope industry comes up with those kind of guardrails and protections. Secondly, Congress needs to have the hearings, needs to develop what regulatory environment needs to be in place for AI.
And that's a challenge for us.
North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, a former tech entrepreneur and executive, also calling for regulation, but expressing doubt that policy will be able to keep up with the rapidly evolving technology.
Has government regulation ever been able to keep up with technology? No, because at the speed that technology is moving and the way the federal government creates regulations, they're always behind.
Political experts do acknowledge that there could be benefits for campaigns using artificial intelligence.
In what ways do you think a political campaign can utilize artificial intelligence?
I could see, for instance, a fundraising team that sends out a multitude of fundraising emails and texts every week to use AI to develop first drafts of those and really use their time more efficiently on other tasks.
But Lau also says it's important to think beyond individual candidates or campaigns utilizing AI, warning that foreign adversaries have access to the same technology.
We've seen in past election cycles how, for instance, foreign actors have manipulated social media to get in the feeds of American voters and feed them misinformation. AI can absolutely be used in the same way. And that is definitely one of the concerns that we should all have about the technology heading into this election cycle.
All seeming to blur. There are thanks to Avery for that. Be sure to tune in for our special coverage tomorrow night here on Prime as voters go to several polls in multiple states. We'll tackle some of the issues motivating voters like abortion, immigration, and guns. That's all tomorrow night right here on ABC News Live Prime. Your voice, your vote, 1 year out. And we still have much more to get to tonight. Coming up, the father of a suspected mass shooter is charged in connection to the crime, the offense he pleaded guilty to in court. Plus, could some states remove former President Donald Trump from their 2024 ballots? A court case that could hurt his campaign. But next, a takeover in the Big Apple over the weekend by runners. We look at the major moments and the lasting influence of the New York Marathon by the numbers.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers.
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital.
Destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
Everybody in that home is okay.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. We are here at fashion's biggest night out.
What's happening today? YouTube has unveiled a new set of policies.
What people are talking about, the new ad campaign.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
A real-life Barbie dream house.
A name change for the Wienermobile.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
Lonely, manipulated, villainized.
I saw her frustration.
This book is an emotional experience. Every page there is a revelation. Brittany describes having a secret abortion that not even her family knew about.
She's in tears. I asked her if everything was okay, and she said, no, things are not okay.
That woman is strong. She survived a lot. Britney Spears is a badass woman, and I hope she knows that about herself.
It's Brittany, the new Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
When I got sent to Idaho to cover the murders of 4 college students, it was a story that didn't make any sense. 4 students stabbed to death in their beds while 2 roommates were home.
You gotta think to yourself, okay, who's the target and how many people would a man go through to get to his target?
I'm Kana Whitworth with ABC News. This is the story of savage murders, a determined small-town police force, and a scholar of crime. This is The King Road Killings. The full series is out now. Listen to every episode wherever you get your podcasts.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
You know, that sounds pretty good.
Give it to me. Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture, with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food. GMA 3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us, afternoons.
For everything you need to know.
I love that.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. Many here in New York are still glowing from the 53rd running of the world's biggest marathon. Here's how it all went down by the numbers. More than 50,000 runners competed, running through all 5 New York boroughs and passed more than 2 million spectators. Around mile 19, Ethiopian Tamaret Tola made it clear he was in for the win, pulling away from the pack for a 2-hour, 4-minute, 58-second finish. Tola toppled the previous course record set back in 2011, making him the 3rd marathoner this year to set a record wearing so-called super shoes. It was a thrilling sprint for the win on the women's side. 2 hours, 27 minutes, 23 seconds clinched it for Kenya's Helen Obiri, making her the first woman in 34 years to win both the Boston and New York City marathons in the same year. More records in the wheelchair division. Catherine de Runner of Switzerland's 1 hour, 39, 32-second finish set a new women's course record. And Marcel Hug, also from Switzerland, won his 6th New York City marathon with a 1 hour, 25-minute, 29-second finish. And somewhere way back in the pack, behind all those winning record setters, many of us here at ABC got in on the marathon action, including 11 of us who joined up to run a relay to raise money for Teen for Kids, a program that encourages physical fitness for children. I took up the baton for miles 18 through 20. It was amazing to be out there with so many great people running for a great cause. And we still have much more ahead here on Prime. A woman drives a car into a school, and police say she did it on purpose. Why investigators believe she targeted the campus. And a change for Starbucks workers, what the company is putting into effect as of next year.
It all began so beautifully. Suddenly, there was a shot. Mrs. Kennedy said, to stain her husband's blood. She said, I want them to see what they have done to Jack. The commentator was saying, Lyndon Johnson, now President of the United States. That was when the enormity struck me. I was walking onto a stage for a part I had never rehearsed. I ought to record this.
Dr. King's been shot. Senator Kennedy had been shot. But Vietnam dominated the news. What is our country coming to? Are we a sick society? I felt extreme hostility in front of Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy. Was it because I was alive? The greatest courage is to go about the day's work. That's a large order for a woman.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
Everybody in that home is okay.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. We are here at fashion's biggest night out.
What's happening today? YouTube has unveiled a new set of policies.
What people are talking about, the new ad campaign.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
A real-life Barbie dream house.
A name change for the Wienermobile.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers.
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
From the capital. Destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7 straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
When I got sent to Idaho to cover the murders of 4 college students, it was a story that didn't make any sense. 4 students stabbed to death in their beds while 2 roommates were home.
You gotta think to yourself, okay, who's the target and how many people would a man go through to get to his target?
I'm Kana Whitworth with ABC News. This is the story of savage murders, a determined small-town police force, and a scholar of crime. This is the King Road Killings. The full series is out now. Listen to every episode wherever you get your podcasts.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're going to love it.
Wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Getting you behind the stories as they happen.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Streaming free on ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Yeah. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
The father of a mass shooting suspect appears in court on charges in connection with the crime. Police say a woman tried to target a Jewish school but identified the wrong building, and see the race to rescue a man who fell onto the subway tracks. These stories and much more in tonight's rundown.
Robert Crimo Jr. has pleaded guilty to 7 felony counts of reckless conduct. He's the father of Robert Crimo III, the suspect in last year's July 4th parade shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. Prosecutors say Crimo Jr. enabled his son's deadly actions by sponsoring his gun license.
A major search for a California woman who disappeared in Guatemala. Her family members say 29-year-old Nancy Ng went missing on October 19th on Lake Adelon. KABC reports that Ng was on a Guatemalan yoga retreat, last seen kayaking with other retreat members. The family has established a GoFundMe page to help pay for air and water searchers. So far, no witnesses offering information that might help find her. Another former Chicago Blackhawks organization player is suing the team in connection with sexual abuse and harassment claims. Lawsuit accuses former coach Brad Aldridge of grooming, harassing, threatening, and assaulting an unnamed minor league player during the 2009-2010 season, and that the Blackhawk organization covered up the accusations. Lawsuit comes 2 years after another former player, Kyle Beach, made similar accusations against Aldridge and the Blackhawks, saying it happened during the same time period. Indianapolis police have arrested a woman and charged her with crashing her vehicle into what she may have thought was a Jewish school. 34-year-old Ruba Almata, captured Friday. Police say she told officers she couldn't breathe anymore after watching the news, and allegedly said that she crashed the car on purpose. Indianapolis Jewish Community Relations Council saying the building was actually connected to the Black Hebrew Israelites. Council said Almata may have believed the building was connected to Israel because of the Hebrew Israelites wording and because it had a semblance of a Star of David on the front.
Starbucks announced they would be raising the hourly pay of U.S. retail employees. The coffee chain said workers would receive a raise of at least 3% starting January 1st, with the percentage going up based on years of experience. Employees already receive an average wage of about $17.50 an hour, with a full benefits package that reaches as much as $27 an hour. The announcement comes amid the ongoing union campaign at Starbucks locations across the country, as Starbucks Workers United has organized more than 350 stores since 2021. Body camera video shows NYPD officers saving a man who fell on the subway tracks. Officers are seen rushing over to the man, pulling him up off the tracks and onto the platform not long before the next arriving train. Police credited Good Samaritans for helping the officers pull the man to the platform. He was eventually picked up by local paramedics.
The Anti-Defamation League reports that anti-Semitic incidents are up by 388% over the same period last year in the U.S. alone, and those numbers around the world are rising. We saw an example just last week in Russia. This video you may have seen before circulating online shows hundreds of people who appear to be storming onto a landing field at an airport chanting anti-Semitic slogans and seeking out passengers arriving on a flight from Tel Aviv. Officials say at least 60 people were arrested. Joining us now to talk about the rise in these incidents is the Israeli government's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism, Michal Kotler-Wunsch. You just heard those numbers from the ADL. Your reaction to what you're actually seeing firsthand?
So there is a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism, as you said, around the world, hundreds of percentages. And you know, the very same anti-Semitism that enabled, that stoked, that fueled, if you will, the October 7th atrocities, the war crimes, the crimes against humanity, the makings of genocide, raping, burning, pillaging, everything in sight, is the very same anti-Semitism that enables, that stokes, that fuels the responses to the atrocities of October 7th, that deny, that justify, that excuse, and that target Jews around the world. It is devastating.
There have been calls from people on both sides for a ceasefire, saying that it would save civilian lives on both sides. What's your reaction to that?
I want to be very clear. There was a ceasefire on October 6th. And October 7th, a genocidal terror organization, Hamas, a proxy of a genocidal terror regime in Iran that is committed in its charter, just like Mein Kampf, to the annihilation of the State of Israel and the murder of Jews, broke that ceasefire. 1,400 people were burned, butchered, murdered, raped, abducted. We have hundreds that are held now in the hell of Gaza by that same genocidal terror organization that holds Palestinians hostage as human shields, as sacrifices, preventing them, shooting them when they try to reach humanitarian corridor. And I want to be very, very clear. Whenever Israel seizes, Hamas fires. We cannot enable that kind of conduct of a genocidal terror organization to continue to fuel what is happening, including all those that it holds hostage that are Palestinians.
There are families who say, who have family members who are being held hostage, who would also like to see a ceasefire to give a better chance potentially of their loved ones being able to survive this, and have said that they feel like Israel is not prioritizing their loved ones enough.
Not only is Israel prioritizing their loved ones and going in on the ground in order to be able to save some of them, and some of them have been actually released by Israel's forces from Hamas terrorists. But it has to be very clear. Any call for a ceasefire has to be a call, as I said, for the immediate and unconditional release of all those hostages held in standing violation of international law, for the immediate and unconditional putting down of arms by that Hamas genocidal terror organization, for the immediate and unconditional turning in of all the perpetrators of the atrocities of October 7th, the likes of which the Jewish people have not seen since the Holocaust, and for the immediate cessation, for the call to annihilate the State of Israel all over the world that we see in demonstrations on campuses, in city centers, and on social media that calls for from the river to the sea an annihilation of the State of Israel.
You know, obviously there are a lot of things that can be true all at the same time, right? There are people who can condemn Hamas, but also say, we have to value lives equally here and understand that 1,400 people lost their lives in Israel, but now we have 10,000 people who've lost their lives in Gaza. And so at what point do we say enough? Enough of the death that's happening here now in Gaza?
Anybody who cares for the Palestinians that are held in Gaza. And I remind us all that Israel has not been in Gaza since 2005, and that the Hamas took over Gaza in 2006. And continues to violate and to hold Palestinians as human shields, and continues to use them as sacrifices. And as I said, that there is a humanitarian corridor that was created by the State of Israel, and I implore that we remember that Israel has done everything possible to call on all Gazan civilians to make their way to the other border that Gaza has, which is with Egypt. You know, tens of thousands of Israelis have been displaced from their homes, and those Gazan civilians have to be allowed to take not only the humanitarian corridor, but very easily to cross the border into Egypt, where they will have safety.
But that's not easy to do. I mean, people were told to do that, but then they can't cross the border.
Well, it isn't easy because nobody's applying that kind of pressure on Egypt. They're instead applying the pressure on the State of Israel to seize what it must do in order to protect its civilians.
Michal, we thank you so much for the conversation. Really appreciate you coming on in your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
We turn back now to the 2024 election. In the past week, courts in Colorado and Minnesota held unprecedented hearings on whether or not former President Trump can remain on the 2024 ballot, as voters in several states turned to lawsuits to bar him from a chance at a second term, all based on the use of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. ABC's Devin Dwyer explains.
He's been unscathed by his rivals and undeterred by 4 criminal indictments. But last week, Donald Trump faced a new line of attack inside 2 state courtrooms.
Petitioners ask this court to uphold the U.S. Constitution and defend American democracy.
Judges in Colorado and Minnesota are being asked by bipartisan groups of voters to decide whether an often overlooked part of the Constitution bars Trump from their state ballots.
Donald Trump is disqualified by the Constitution, by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, from ever holding office again.
Attorney Ben Clements, who helped file the Minnesota case, is leading a national campaign to get Trump disqualified.
So is this just another group of Democrats desperate to defeat Donald Trump?
No, absolutely not. After taking the oath to defend and uphold the Constitution when he first became president, he violated that oath and engaged in insurrection in his efforts to illegally overturn the election.
Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was ratified after the Civil War to keep former Confederate rebels from holding public office. It says anyone who took an oath as an officer of the United States to support the Constitution and who then engaged in insurrection or rebellion or gave aid or comfort to the enemy is disqualified as a candidate. The argument gained steam after 2 prominent conservative legal scholars wrote an analysis concluding Section 3 is valid, enforceable, and self-executing.
You said that the evidence they've laid out, their 126 pages, was momentous. Why did you say that?
The fact that they are associated with the Federalist Society, that unlike me, they are not liberals, I think adds credibility.
Harvard Law professor Lawrence Tribe says Section 3 clearly applies to Donald Trump.
This is a provision that's supposed to operate whether or not you are prosecuted and convicted, and the courts are going to have to consider the role that he played, not only in the mob that sacked the Capitol, but in the false elector scheme and in all of the other schemes leading up to what happened on January 6th.
Some legal scholars say secretaries of state who oversee election ballots could remove Trump today, but none have been willing to enforce Section 3 on their own.
Eligibility challenges of any kind, whether it's residency or age or anything else, go through one channel and one channel alone, and that's the court.
Minnesota's Steve Simon, who is a Democrat, insists his hands are tied.
Are you really that powerless?
Well, I don't think it's powerless. We're not an investigatory office. We're not a law enforcement office. The ones who are going to make the legal calls about who engaged in what conduct and whether it rises to the level of constitutional disqualification, that's what a court will do.
This week, a court in Michigan will also take up a 14th Amendment case against Trump as his attorneys countersue there to order the state to include him on the ballot.
This is tough, and it hasn't been used before since the Civil War. There's a few sticking points. Was January 6th an insurrection or rebellion in that legal sense of the term? Did Donald Trump engage in that insurrection? The other problem, though, and I think this one's more difficult, is that the language of Article 3 actually only applies to people who took the oath of office as officers of the United States.
But wasn't Donald Trump effectively an officer of the United States as president?
No, Donald Trump took the oath for the president. He did not take the oath for an officer of the United States.
Trump has called the lawsuits an absurd conspiracy theory. His legal team arguing the First Amendment right to free speech protects him from allegations he's engaged in insurrection.
We argue here that this, at its basest level, this is election interference.
A ruling from the highest court in at least one state could come by the end of the year. And if any decision were to keep Trump off the ballot, legal experts say that would most likely get a Supreme Court review.
It would be a nationwide ruling about the meaning of this provision and how it's to be enforced.
And what do you think the odds are that they actually get there?
I think the odds are pretty good that they'll render a decision on the merits, although there's a fairly good chance that they'll find a way to duck, that they'll say it's a political question, not for us, for the voters.
Why not just defeat Trump at the ballot box?
The purpose of Section 3 was to say certain people engage in conduct that's so egregious, that is such a threat to our democracy, that even if they have the support of the majority of Americans, they should not serve.
Fascinating debate there. Our thanks to Devin Dwyer for bringing us that. And now she is known as one of the queens of country music. Now, 1 year after being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Dolly Parton is releasing her first rock record. Good Morning America's Robin Roberts sits down with a country legend for a new special program following her transition from rhinestones to rock and roll.
Bless your heart. Oh, every time I sit down with you, you have something new going on.
Well, everything's new with me. Every day's new because I wake up with new dreams every day, and I've dreamed myself into a corner, so I have to keep the dreams alive. And one of the newest things right now is my rock and roll album called Rockstar, and I'm excited about that.
You are releasing a rock album, Dolly.
Here I am at 77 years old. I'm going to be a rock star.
Was there any trepidation about taking on this genre, something different?
You know, I would have if I'd have been younger. But at my age, I ain't afraid much anymore. I'm scared sometimes. Of course, you know, everybody is. You know, I'm not made of stone.
Dolly's rock star era all started last year when she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an honor she didn't believe she deserved. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They reach out to you and you're like, oh no, thank you, but no thank you. And you even said that you're not worthy. Dolly Parton not worthy?
You know me and controversy. I don't want no pardon, no, nothing. I'm not a rebel without a cause, you know. And I know a lot of the rock artists that have never been put in the Hall of Fame that really should be. And like, I'd spent my life in country music, and I'm happy to accept anything because I work hard in that world. Did not want to take any votes away from any of the rock people that spend their life doing that. And then they kept saying, no, we want you.
Dolly deciding to accept the honor, performing a new song about her longtime love of rock and roll at the ceremony.
Elvis and Wildman Jerry Lee, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, they all cast a spell on me. Carl Perkins and
I want to show a picture from that night because look at you. You look like a rock star.
I did. Look at me. I had on my Elvis collar. Yeah, and I was rocking it there.
I knew you played the guitar. This is an electric
guitar. Oh, I banged it out there.
A final question. How would you complete this sentence? Dolly is?
Well, Dolly is Dolly. I said that I'm a workhorse that looks like a show horse. I always make a joke and say that I hope to die on stage in the middle of a song, hopefully one I've written.
Dolly, I will always love you. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Dolly is Dolly. You can see more of Robin's conversation tomorrow night on Dolly Parton, From Rhinestones to Rock and Roll. It airs at 2 p.m. Eastern on ABC and will stream on Hulu the next day. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. up in the next hour, an exclusive interview with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he stands on the calls for a ceasefire in the war with Hamas. And we are 1 year out from the 2024 election, what the latest polls show about where former President Trump may have an edge on President Biden.
Wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Streaming free on ABC News Live. From America's #1 news comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
You know, that sounds pretty good.
Give it to me. Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food. GMA 3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us, afternoons.
For everything you need to know. I love that.
Lonely, manipulated, villainized.
I saw her frustration.
This book is an emotional experience. Every page there is a revelation. Brittany describes having a secret abortion that not even her family knew about.
She's in tears. I asked her if everything was okay, and she said, no, things are not okay.
That woman is strong. She survived a lot. Britney Spears is a badass woman, and I hope she knows that about herself.
It's Brittany, the new Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
When I got sent to Idaho to cover the murders of 4 college students, it was a story that didn't make any sense. 4 students stabbed to death in their beds while 2 roommates were home.
You gotta think to yourself, okay, who's the target and how many people would a man go through to get to his target?
I'm Kana Whitworth with ABC News. This is the story of savage murders, a determined small-town police force, and a scholar of crime. This is the King Road Killings. The full series is out now. Listen to every episode wherever you get your podcasts.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Shohei Ohtani, legends of the game. But now the list of greats redefined. From ABC News, Reclaim the Forgotten League, a side of the story of baseball you have never heard before like this. The award-winning podcast is back. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or scan the QR codes you see here.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Good evening, everyone. This is ABC News Live Prime. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We have a lot of news to get to this evening, including the presidential first made in court today after former President Donald Trump took the witness stand in his own fraud trial, what it could mean for his business and his re-election chances. Plus, the father of the teenage suspect in a mass shooting at a 4th of July parade last year pleaded guilty to reckless conduct in court today. And records were broken, goals were reached, and money raised for some incredible causes. And the ABC team was there for it all as we ran the New York City Marathon as a relay, the great cause we were all on hand for later on in the program. But we do begin with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once again rejecting the idea of a ceasefire in Gaza tonight unless hostages are released. He spoke in an exclusive interview with ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir 1 month after the Hamas terror attack. The Israeli military says its troops have now completely surrounded Gaza City as the Hamas-run health ministry claims more than 10,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed in Israel's campaign against Gaza. President Biden has been pressing Israel for tactical pauses to help civilians get out and to get more humanitarian aid in. And that's where David begins his conversation with Netanyahu.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for joining us here. I know you spoke with President Biden just a short time ago. President Biden has repeatedly said that Israel has every right to defend itself, has an obligation to defend its people. We also know what the administration is now saying, calling for a humanitarian pause to help get aid into Gaza and to help minimize the deaths of Palestinian civilians. Will there be a pause?
First of all, let me say that I deeply appreciate, as do the entire people of Israel, President Biden's and the American government and the American people's support for Israel with a great moral clarity. I think there's the question of a ceasefire. The president himself has said that a ceasefire would be a surrender to Hamas. It would be a victory for Hamas, and you would no more have it than you would have a ceasefire after the Al-Qaeda bombings of the World Trade Center.
I know the Biden administration has also said now is not the time for a ceasefire. What they're proposing is a humanitarian pause. There will be no pause?
Well, there will be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave. But I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire. It's not that I don't think. I think it will hamper the war effort. It'll hamper our effort to get our hostages out, because the only thing that works on these criminals in Hamas is the military pressure that we're exerting.
If Hamas agrees to release the hostages, then there would be a pause.
Well, there'd be a ceasefire for that purpose. And we're waiting for that to happen. It hasn't happened so far.
Do you know where the hostages are? Do you know where the Americans are?
We have some intelligence. I'm not sure it's wise to share it here with Hamas.
I know you said you're doing everything you can to minimize civilian casualties. Obviously, the world saw the horror in Israel, the 1,400 brutally killed in that terror attack. We were on the ground for several days, as you know. But the world has now also seen the toll in Gaza. The health ministry run by Hamas now says 10,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed, 4,000 of them children. I'm not asking about Hamas here. I'm asking about the 10,000 civilians killed. Are you concerned about the number of civilians that we've seen lost, caught in the middle of this conflict?
I think every civilian loss is a tragedy. Every civilian life lost is a tragedy. We're fighting an enemy that is particularly brutal. They're using their civilians as human shields. And while we're asking the Palestinian civilian population to leave the war zone, they're preventing them at gunpoint. They're using them as human shields.
I know you have told Palestinian civilians to move to the south. We know that there have been strikes in the south as well. We should just point that out. When you talk about the tactics used by Hamas, the world is aware of those tactics. Are you taking that into account? Because when you start to see numbers that are difficult to wrap your head around, 10,000 Palestinian civilians, is there a more targeted approach in going after Hamas being explored here to try to minimize the number of Palestinian civilians who are not Hamas, who are not militants, who've lost their lives here?
The answer is yes. First of all, I wouldn't take those numbers at face value. I think we have to check them, and there are quite a few, several thousand Palestinian combatants there. That is Hamas terrorists that are incorporated in those numbers. It's a very tough enemy, but we can't let them have immunity. If we let them have immunity, David, then barbarians win.
You have refused any temporary pause that doesn't include the return of hostages. You mentioned that right here with me again today. I'm curious what you would say to the families of those hostages who believe that this mounting civilian death toll in Gaza, now at 10,000, is putting their own loved ones, these hostages, at greater risk.
Well, we're taking that into consideration, believe me. There's no one who wants to get our hostages back more than us. I think that it's important to understand that there is no way to defeat terrorists embedded in a civilian population without going as targeted a way as you can against the terrorists. But there will be, unfortunately, these civilian casualties. We'll do, again and again, I say it, we'll do everything in our power to reduce that.
You spoke with President Biden just before you came on the air here to talk with me. Does he agree with you on this, no pause unless hostages, or is this a disagreement with President Biden?
We agree on many things. I've known President Biden. I've known Joe Biden for 40 years. He's a great supporter of Israel, and he's a great friend. It's trying times for both of us and for the people of Israel and our friends. We understand that, but we have to stand together. I think we stand together.
But there is daylight here on this notion of a humanitarian pause. You don't agree with the Biden administration on that?
We agree that we have to provide humanitarian assistance. We're doing it and coordinating it with our American friends and with President Biden. We'll do whatever we can. We don't want to give Hamas the opportunity to endanger our soldiers. We saw that until we started the ground action, there was no pressure on them to release hostages. What we see is the minute we started the ground action, there is pressure.
I know Israel prides itself on its intelligence capabilities. We now know the Hamas attack had been planned for months. We saw the training videos. Of course, we saw the thousands of Hamas terrorists swarming into Israel. How did your government miss this?
It's a very good question, because the first task of government is to protect the people, and clearly we didn't live up to that. We had a big, big setback.
As Prime Minister, do you personally bear any responsibility here?
I've said that there are going to be very tough questions that are going to be asked, and I'm going to be among the first to answer them. We're not going to evade that. The responsibility of a government is to protect the people, and clearly that responsibility wasn't met.
But you know what I'm asking here, because so many Israeli officials, including the defense minister, the military intelligence chief, the military chief of staff, they've all taken some responsibility for Israel being caught off guard. They didn't say we have to wait for an investigation here. Do you believe that you should take any responsibility?
Of course. That's not a question. It's going to be resolved after the war. I think there'll be time to allocate that.
President Biden has said that it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza. Who should govern Gaza when this is over?
Those who don't want to continue the way of Hamas. It certainly is not. I think Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility, because we've seen what happens when we don't have it. When we don't have that security responsibility, what we have is the eruption of Hamas terror on a scale that we couldn't imagine.
Do you have a warning to Iran, to Hezbollah?
I think they've understood that if they enter the war in a significant way, the response will be very, very powerful. And I hope they don't make that mistake.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for taking the time for us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Next to the historic moment in a New York state court, no current nor former president has ever testified in their own defense. Today, Donald Trump became the first. Trump took the stand in his civil fraud trial in New York City. He was seated between his lawyers at the defense table and lashed out at the judge and the attorney general, even after taking the stand. Aaron Katersky has much more on the eventful day in court.
Donald Trump arriving at court today to testify in his civil fraud trial, spoiling for a fight.
This is really election interference. That's all it is. This trial is ridiculous.
New York's Attorney General unfazed.
I am certain that he will engage in name-calling and taunts and race baiting and call this a witch hunt. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters are the facts and the numbers. And numbers, my friends, don't lie.
It was tense from the start, sitting right next to Judge Arthur Engoron, Trump complaining he called me a fraud and he didn't know anything about me. The judge admonishing the former president, please just answer the question, no speeches. Trump did not comply. Calm but combative while hunched in the witness chair, Trump at one point grumbling, I'm sure the judge will rule against me because he always rules against me. Judge Engoron exasperated, calling Trump's answers non-responsive and repetitive, at one point yelling to Trump's attorney, can you control your client? This is not a political rally. This is a courtroom. I beseech you to control him. If you can't, I will, and threatening to boot Trump from court. Trump's response, this is a very unfair trial. I hope the public is watching. In a break, but still under oath, he gestured his lips were sealed.
Trump, how's it going in there?
The judge has already determined Trump fraudulently overvalued his properties and inflated his net worth to get better deals on bank loans and insurance. On the witness stand, Trump conceded he knew what was in his financial statements, acknowledging, I would look at them, I would see them, and I would maybe on occasion have some suggestions. But he largely deflected blame to deputies and accountants, saying, I have people, I pay them a lot of money, they're accountants, I assume they keep good records. Still, he claims when you factor in the Trump brand, he's worth a lot more than what it says on paper, insisting the numbers of my net worth are far greater than the numbers reflected on the financial statements. Therefore, you have no case.
Our thanks to Aaron Katersky. As Trump takes the stand, we're now 1 year out from Election Day, and even as he faces multiple investigations, the former president has remained the clear Republican frontrunner, and polls show he's edging out President Biden in critical battleground states that could decide the election. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
New warning signs for President Biden. A vast majority of Americans believe the country is on the wrong track, according to our latest ABC News Ipsos poll. What's worse for Biden? Donald Trump is gaining ground in key battleground states. A New York Times Siena poll showing the former president is leading Biden in Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Trump, facing 91 felony charges, is still the clear frontrunner for the Republican nomination, leading his GOP rivals too.
We are going to win the Florida primary for the third straight time. We're going to win the state in a landslide next November.
Nearly the entire Republican field all on one stage in Florida this weekend.
Thank you, Florida.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie heckled after insisting the party deserved better than Trump.
Your anger against the truth is reprehensible.
Other candidates, including the state's governor, Ron DeSantis, struggling to close the gap.
The brand of Republicans has become toxic, very difficult to attract people to the party. So Florida has shown the way forward for the Republican Party.
Even though Biden and Trump are the leading candidates in their party, our latest poll shows their approval ratings are underwater, leaving challengers on both sides hoping for a breakthrough.
The 2024 race is just getting started. Most people are just starting to pay attention. Prime time starts right now.
All eyes will be on Miami on Wednesday. Our thanks to Rachel Scott for that. In an Illinois courtroom today, the father of the teenage suspect in a mass shooting at a 4th of July parade last year pled guilty to reckless conduct. The plea came just as he was to go to trial on charges related to his role in his son's access to a gun. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has more.
Tonight, on the eve of his trial, the father of the alleged gunman who killed 7 at a 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois, pleading guilty to reckless conduct.
You're entering pleas of guilty to 7 counts of a Class A misdemeanor, all of which are punishable by up to a year in the county jail, a $2,500 fine, or both. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Robert Cremo Jr. pleading guilty to 7 counts, 1 for each victim. Prosecutors say Cremo helped his 19-year-old son obtain a gun license, even though he knew he was capable of violence and had threatened to kill family members. Cremo Jr.'s lawyer says his client pleaded guilty because he didn't want key evidence disclosed that could jeopardize his son's right to a fair trial.
My client believes that it is in the best interest of his family and the community not to publicly relive the tragedies of the 4th of July shootings, especially in a public trial.
Prosecutors say the shooter's father made a reckless and dangerous decision.
This wasn't a fishing license. This wasn't a permission slip to go to the museum. This was a permission slip for his son to buy an assault rifle.
Lindsay, charges are rarely filed against the parents of mass shooters. Cremo Jr. will be on probation for 2 years and will serve 60 days in jail. As part of his plea deal, prosecutors say Cremo Jr. has agreed to testify if called during his son's criminal trial. Lindsay.
Stephanie, thank you. Still much more to get to tonight on Prime coming up as the political landscape continues to change. One author questions the future of our democracy, why she says America is at a crucial crossroads. The next, demonstrators take to the streets what they're demanding after a major hurricane left a path of destruction in a coastal city.
Whenever news breaks,
The crush of families here in Poland.
Here in Kentucky, no match for the tornado.
From Monterey Park, California, on the ground in Ukraine.
Reporting from Uvalde, Texas.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
From Kathmandu, Nepal.
Truckee, California, covering record snowfall.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
Here at this airport in Tampa, it's already shut down.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Reporting from Jerusalem.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
Everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine. Some more, just a little bit. Breathe more, just a little bit. Smile a little more in a minute. I've been running through the strange life. Pictures on my phone, like everything is so fine, little bit of sunshine.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Reporting from Atlanta, I'm Steve Osunsami. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. Demonstrators took to the streets of Mexico City to demand emergency aid for the reconstruction of Acapulco after Hurricane Otis struck the Mexican coastal city. The protesters left in a caravan from Acapulco and arrived at the Mexican government palace to ask the president to speed up the release of resources to start the reconstruction of the port city. Obrador has unveiled a $3.4 billion Acapulco recovery plan and said the city should notice a difference by Christmas. Some experts fear a full recovery could take years. Ukraine President Zelensky said it was irresponsible to engage in talk of holding an election during wartime and called for unity to avoid pointless political discussions. Elections are banned under martial law now in force in Ukraine, but Zelensky had been considering whether to invoke special provisions to stage them. He said he would like to run for a second term if a vote took place. Floods caused by heavy rains across parts of Somalia have displaced more than 113,000 people and temporarily affected hundreds of thousands, according to the UN. The rain comes a year after the Horn of Africa nation suffered its worst drought in 4 decades. About 10 people have died in the aftermath of the rains, and the government has declared a state of emergency. Award-winning author, podcast host, and writer of the popular Substack newsletter Letters from an American, Boston College history professor Heather Cox Richardson has captivated millions with her analysis of America's political evolution and the forces shaping its future. And in her latest book, Democracy Awakening, Notes on the State of America, she takes us on a historical journey, examining the current crossroads facing America with a narrative that is both a wake-up call and a beacon of hope for the future. Heather Cox Richardson joins us now. Thank you so much for coming on the show. The book argues for a reinterpretation of U.S. history with a focus on democracy. Why do you believe this perspective is so crucial for understanding America today?
Because that perspective, I think, marries both the honor that we give to our founding documents, particularly the Declaration of Independence, with its declaration that we have a right to be treated equally before the law and to have a say in our government, and the recognition that our society has never perfectly treated minorities. That the reason that the United States has managed both to address the inequalities in its founding, but also consistently to expand its understanding of liberal democracy is because marginalized populations have always held up the principles that were articulated in the Declaration of Independence. They have always said, hey, listen, that idea of equality and having a say in your government is a great idea. Why doesn't it apply to me? And that marriage of those two different strands that we're experiencing right now, I think tells us a lot about how we empower ourselves to rebuild democracy in the present and for the future.
You write, democracies die more often through the ballot box than at gunpoint. Explain how that's played out in other countries and what it could mean for this country.
Well, crucially, many people think that you lose a democracy when tanks start running down the street or people start goose-stepping down Main Street, right? But the reality is that people lose their democracies when they come to believe something that isn't true, when strongmen convince them to vote against their own interests and to give up their own power because they believe in something that isn't real. And crucially, relying on a reality-based media, relying on reality, making sure you understand what is really happening rather than what is being fed to you is really important, because what you see in countries like Hungary, where Viktor Orban has managed to gut a democracy and put himself in power, you see people voting for a strong man who gradually takes away all of their power. We are close to having a certain group of people doing the same thing to us in the United States of America today.
We've seen reports on how former President Trump would use a potential return to the White House to seek revenge against perceived enemies. How much is the concern for where America's potentially going connected to former President Trump and his efforts to return to power?
Well, I'm very concerned about it. I think you must take those kinds of things seriously, especially since he certainly laid the groundwork for things like gutting our civil service and for things like taking revenge on his enemies and for things like weaponizing the Department of Justice and for things like taking over control of the military in his first term. The fact that we are not paying attention to the things that he is saying, we are not adequately recognizing that he is laying out a strongman military dictatorship right now strikes me as deeply problematic. That's not to say that people shouldn't disagree about our democracy. We shouldn't disagree about things like immigration and financial policy and infrastructure, but we can do that within the framework that accepts the idea that a majority should rule and we should have everybody participating in our democracy.
What actions do you believe that Americans can take in order to try to continue to support a healthy democracy?
Everybody should get involved, first of all, and they should take up oxygen, getting involved at the local level, showing up to school board meetings, showing up to town council meetings, showing up for any time in which your voice will have a direction, will impact the direction of your town, your state, and your federal government. Often I think people just sort of assume that if they put the right president in place, the rest will come. And the reality is actually the opposite, that you need to put your effort in at all levels of government.
Heather, we thank you so much for joining us. Democracy Awakening: Notes on the State of America is now available to purchase wherever books are sold. And still to come, the New York Marathon isn't just for the long-distance runners. There's several other events as well, including one that has a few familiar faces.
When I got sent to Idaho to cover the murders of 4 college students, it was a story that didn't make any sense. 4 students stabbed to death in their beds while 2 roommates were home.
You gotta think to yourself, okay, who's the target and how many people would a man go through to get to his target?
I'm Kana Whitworth with ABC News. This is the story of savage murders, a determined small-town police force, and a scholar of crime. This is the King Road Killings. The full series is out now. Listen to every episode wherever you get your podcasts.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. From America's #1 News comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and customizable to your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Finally tonight, tens of thousands of runners took on 26.2 miles in the New York City Marathon on Sunday. Here at ABC News, we work as a team, and on Sunday, that was on full display, literally passing a baton, running the marathon as a relay team to help inspire young people to get active. ABC's Will Reeve ran one of those legs and has a recap of our experience.
50,000 runners from around the world hit the streets of New York Sunday for the 52nd TCS New York City Marathon. None faster than Tamrit Tola, who set a course record. Helen Obiri, the women's champ. And this year, some familiar faces from ABC News traversed the 5 boroughs in a relay in support of Team for Kids.
This funds community programs to help kids stay active, get active, because if you start young, it stays with you.
Starting off the morning are Robin Roberts.
We are very competitive at ABC News.
Over the Verrazano Bridge.
I can! I will! Yes, I am!
Here she is closing in on the end of her leg.
Almost there. I can see well. Woo! I'm gonna finish strong. Gotta finish strong.
Where yours truly was waiting for her at mile 3. At mile 6, I passed the baton to Ginger. With clear skies above, Ginger to Rebecca Jarvis.
There is something about running for not just your physical health, but your mental health.
A perfect forecast for ABC News President Kim Godwin. Our executive producer at GMA, Simone Swink, at the ready.
DeMarco Morgan handing off to Lindsay Davis.
This is the only race I never run with headphones because the crowd is the soundtrack. Their enthusiasm keeps you going.
John Carl taking the subway straight from the set of This Week to make his section of the relay.
Come on, John!
Just over 6 miles to go. Finally, David Muir bringing Team ABC News across the finish line.
This team is simple.
Reminding all of us to empower young people to get out and run.
All for Team for Kids. What a worthy cause and what a really fun experience. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Lindsay Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, Roku, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com. The news never stops. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.